YouTube, how's it going? The Goat House is back, and today we're ranking every NFL team's draft class from worst to first. Did a little bit of a power rankings format because we all miss those weekly power rankings, at least I do. So that's kind of the format we went with here, going from 32 to 1, ranking the 2021 draft classes. If you want grades for each team, if you want more in-depth of my thoughts on each team's draft class, it'll pop up on your screen now, and I'll pin a link down in the comments for the full draft grades video. So check it out. We got a bunch of winners, losers, steals videos on the channel. More to come. Schedule releases right around the corner. We'll break down schedules. We'll predict records for teams, and we'll predict the season. So hopefully you join us for that. Smash that like button. Subscribe. Be much appreciated. Make sure you check out that Twitter. And, yeah, here's the Twitter, right? You guys already voted for grades. That'll turn into a video. But there was 11 A's you guys gave out, and then here they are. There's not too much time left on these. So you guys, this is semifinals. So you guys are voting for who won the draft. It's looking like it might be Lions, Browns, Bears final here. We will see what you guys decide. But to the power ranking, starting with 32, I do have the Saints last. The problem with the Saints draft class for me is, you look at my favorite pick from the Saints draft class, Paulson Adebo. I liked him in the third round. I think he's going to get some playing time. The problem with that is, compared to the rest of the league, mainly what you have to look at here is that was kind of correct value. It wasn't really a steal. They got him in the third. There's nothing wrong with that. It's a good pick. It's just, to be at the top, you got to get steals. And they did have some reaches, in my opinion. I think Peyton Turner could be a heck of a ball player. I think he has to develop, a little bit of a rush plan. He's kind of just a high motor guy. My problem with him in the first round was all the injuries. So if he stays healthy, he's going to be worth the first round pick. It's just where we graded him pre-draft. So a lot of reaches. I think Ian Book fits. It's just a few rounds early, a couple rounds early for me. So the Saints are at 32 there. I know they tried to trade up, so maybe they wanted to go a little differently themselves. 31 is going to be the Raiders. Again, Trevon Merrick's a pretty solid pick. That's kind of their big pick. Then quite a few reaches, a good fit in Diablo. That's right around where he should have went. A lot of DBs, a little bit of a reach on Kuntz, in my opinion. So another interesting Raiders draft. 30 is going to be the Rams. They get a load of players without having a first-round pick. A lot of receivers. I like the Robert Rochelle pick. I love that pick, actually. And then, I think Tutu Atwell can be a good player a little early, but interesting draft plan for them. They were kind of all over the place, but, they got a decent amount of players for, not having a first-round pick. Again, more in-depth on these classes and actual grades in a separate video that was recently uploaded. You can find that in the channel. 29 is going to be the Packers. There's some picks I like. I think Eric Stokes can be a good corner, but, the picks that I really like, Amari Rodgers, which I did have him as a third-round grade, so it's not like it's tremendous value. But Kylan Hill was a absolute steal, in my opinion. I think they got a hell of a running back there down in the 7th round. That will be their third running back, so it's nothing to get, crazy about. But they had some reaches, too. There was some guys I didn't have graded, and Myers, they took a few rounds early over some other centers. That was a little surprising. So, I think they went for a specific fits, which you understand, especially the offensive line position, across the offensive line. They always go for those versatile guys, the guys that can play tackle, guard, both. So that works for them. They're very good at coaching and developing offensive line. Just looking at my pre-draft board, they took them a little early there. 28 is going to be the Seahawks. It only had 3 picks. Eskridge, I like with the Seahawks. Just a little early, but I think he's going to be a heck of a ball player. Trey Brown's going to be interesting because he had pretty good tape as an outside corner, but are they going to stick a 5'9" corner outside? It's a little bit of a mystery playing him inside. And Forsythe was a pretty good value pick, somewhat of a steal in my opinion. So that was solid. It's just tough with 3 picks there, and nothing that was like crazy, but it's hard to get that crazy pick there. But if you have 3 picks, you either got to get great value or no reaches there. 27 is going to be the Steelers. This is where it's tough to rank. I prefer the grades over ranking because we had some teams with decent drafts or good drafts that will be down here just because there's that many teams that have better drafts, so it's not really a knock on them. Najee Harris, I like Najee Harris. Javonte Williams was my number 1 back in the class. How will Harris be behind that offensive line? They did add to the offensive line, though. Kendrick Green, I like a little better at guard, but they are going to play him at center, I believe. And then they add some pieces. Roche was solid a little later. They got some guys that I like, to be honest. I like his fits. They just took him around early, in my opinion. But an okay draft for the Steelers there. 26 going to be the Cardinals. Yeah, see, I mean, the Cardinals had a pretty solid draft in my opinion. It's just there's 25 teams I thought had better drafts, so that's a tough part about rankings. That's why I prefer the grades again. Zaven Collins was a little surprising, and I started to hear that could happen. I mocked it. Cardinals fans weren't thrilled about it. Maybe it's growing on them a little bit. We thought they can target a corner a little earlier. I do like the Rondale Moore pick. I thought they had a strong day 3. That's where they kind of got, they'd probably be ranked a little lower, 27 through 32, if it wasn't for that day 3. I think the day 3 is where they got their money back. Nothing crazy, though. It's just a pretty good day 3 haul, I just don't know. There's some solid players there, some good value picks, I suppose. I just don't know if they got impact. Did they get impact? I guess instant impact. The way they went about free agency, I felt like they went with Super Bowl or bust pretty much. It's really not how the draft felt. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just a little different than their plan previously, just recently. So I don't know if there's a ton of, early impact, year 1 or even year 2. I think Rondale Moore will be a factor. But other than that, it feels like they still need some pieces, whether it's corner, defensive line next to J.J. Watt. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do. But overall, solid draft. 25 is the Colts. I graded them a B. So you start to see how many drafts I actually like this year compared to most years. So, B, I think, is a pretty good draft. It's similar to the Cardinals, though. It's just not major. I think Kwity Paye's major impact. I love the Kwity Paye pick. I like him with DeForest Buckner outside of him, of course. I hope they get more production out of him. Colts have been struggling to do that from their actual edge rushers, the developmental ones, outside of Justin Houston, I suppose. But I love Kwity Paye. Dio Dangbo, I like for the future. He might have to sit for a year. It was a little early, kind of given that he just got hurt, and he is a little, you got to get more production out of him. But in a way, I like that pick. Other than that, I like Sean Davis. Nothing major there. And then some interesting picks, I thought. So, yeah, it's just kind of a solid draft, B draft with nothing but outside of Kwity Paye that's going to be major for them, big time early on, I should say. 24, another AFC South team. Tennessee Titans, similar to the Colts there, actually. Caleb Farley, I said could be the best corner in this class if healthy. It's a little bit of a risk there, so we'll see what happens there. And they add some players that, I like adding Elijah Molden. I like that pickup. Other picks were just, they're kind of just solid picks to add in there. Maybe won't see a lot of these guys right away. Might have to see Des Fitzpatrick early on. I think Monty Rice fits. They got a number of linebackers now that was kind of planning for the future a little bit. They got some solid players. Like I said, the upside of Caleb Farley. Just not a whole bunch of impact right now if Farley's healthy. Just like the Colts, Kwity Paye. If he gets going, their first round picks is really what I think carries the group. I do like Molden. I do like, for the Colts, Sean Davis from Florida. But pretty similar drafts, I'd actually say there from some of these AFC South teams. Falcons are next. Love Kyle Pitts. That's the second best player in the draft they get. After that, Richie Grant, I think he'll be good for them. It was a little early looking at my pre-draft board, but nothing wrong with that, really. I like the Jalen Mayfield pick. I think they might plug him in at guard. Then they took some, taking the center. Dahlman, I think, is a pretty good pick. It was a little surprising. But I think it's a solid player, solid pick. Taking Aid Ogundeji from Notre Dame. I think it's a solid player, solid pick. It's interesting, though. I felt like he fit, more of a 4-3 defensive end. We'll see what Dean Pease is running over there for the Falcons. So, and they had some that were a little early for me. So, there's some picks to really, really like, instant impact. And there's some that were maybe a little early for me. 22's Washington. Yeah, they were kind of same thing. Davis is a solid fit, just nothing to get crazy about in the first round. But then you look at picks like De'Ami Brown, I think one of the better value picks in the entire draft. And there's some, even I think they had a pretty good 7th round, getting some of those pass rushers, but Dax Milne. They had some wild picks. It's a team that had some really good picks, good impact picks. But then they had some, Bates was a reach to me. St. Juste I like, but maybe around early. They had some of those picks, so they were there was one of those teams that were kind of back and forth, but overall good draft here. There was just 21 better in my opinion. But even these teams down here I graded pretty well, so maybe the grades video is more your type of video. Check it out. 49ers at 21. Yeah, interesting one, because if you look at my pre-draft board and look at what they took, it kind of looked like they took quite a few guys around early, or maybe a little early on Lance compared to my board. So you may say, why are they, not below some of these teams? I really like the fit. I really like kind of the direction they're going. Shanahan adding to the playbook, a little bit different concepts in there with these types of players as they all go together. Trey Lance, Sermon, Aaron Banks, the style of play, so I like that they're kind of thinking outside. And Ambry Thomas you're not going to find anybody higher on him than me. So I love that pick for them. So, I like Elijah Mitchell. There's nothing really wow about this draft for me in terms of value besides Ambry Thomas, who I was very high on. But they're just good, solid fits for what they're trying to do, how they're trying to elevate this offense. So it's a draft that kind of grew on me after it happened. There's a few of those every year. That's one of them. So I thought the Niners did a good job there. Number 20 is going to be the Cowboys. Yeah, pretty inconsistent draft. I love Micah Parsons. I like getting Calvin Joseph. I like that pick in the second round. And they had couple of the bigger reaches of the draft. I thought they're in the early middle stage with Golston and Nashawn Wright there. I thought those were pretty damn early. I thought those were late picks. And then they had a couple of picks that you like. Again, they're mainly, what's driving this up is mainly the first two picks and then maybe Jabril Cox. So they had the wow picks, and they had a couple that were only a couple that I didn't like, but they were pretty big reaches, so that kind of weighs them down a little bit. But overall, a good draft, I thought. Another good draft for the Cowboys. 19 was the Texans. Not too many picks. For not having a first or a second round pick, I thought they did a pretty good job. Davis Mills, we were talking about second round. They take him third. I thought adding Nico Collins, that's about where he should have went. But I like the fit there. And Brevin Jordan was a pretty good value pick there in the 5th round. So I thought, for not having first and second, they actually brought in some value, maybe some more value than teams that had a pick in every round or more than that, really. So I put the Texans at 19. It's not a super sexy draft, but, we're not grading them off of what they've done in the past to lose those first and second round picks. We're just grading them off their draft. And I thought they did a decent job. Maybe it was surprising they didn't add an edge rusher or corner, but that's not what it's always about, 18 going to go Bengals. One that grew on me a little more after the case. There were some picks I just didn't really like. I'm not a fan of taking a kicker. That's preference. Took him in the 5th round. They took Carmen a little early. So there's picks like that I don't really love. I love Jamar Chase though. Joseph Asad. I was more of a 3rd round guy. Some people that end up being a steal, I graded him in the 3rd round. People were surprised by that. Now we see. But I like that pick in the 3rd round. I really like getting Cam Sample. I really like Chris Evans. I liked him a lot out of Michigan. I think he's a good Gio Bernard replacement. So, yeah, they were kind of another team that was kind of back and forth, but I really like some of the fits and players that they got there. They're at 18. 17 is going to be the Chiefs. No first-round pick, 2 seconds, like what they did there at Bolton and Humphrey. I thought Kane Doe was pretty damn early. He's got some upside because of his athleticism, so be excited about his upside. It was really early for me. But again, he's got the upside, but it's just based on my pre-draft grade. Powell, right around where he should have went, in my opinion. I think going to the Chiefs with Mahomes, he's probably going to look like better than that pick, but nothing crazy. I think he's going to be productive again. Trey Smith was kind of that wow pick. They stole him there. Other than that, they got some good impact players there. Nothing crazy, I guess, because they didn't have a first-round pick. They did get Orlando Brown out of that, so that was fantastic. Pretty good draft for the Chiefs for not having a first-round pick. 16 is going to be the Jags. They got a pretty good haul. Yeah, they were kind of back and forth for me, getting the best player in the draft. ETN, maybe a little early for me, but it's going to be an explosive ball player for them. Tyson Campbell, I like Campbell. It was a little surprising to me. I'm not sure. It feels like they got 3 outside corners. But I like Campbell. He's my corner 6 there. And Walker Little was early for me. The injury concern, talking about taking him in the 3rd round with injury concern, I had a problem with. They take him in the 2nd. So didn't love that. I like the Andre Cisco pick. They're kind of back and forth. Farrell, most people like myself didn't have him graded. So they were kind of back and forth. I like Jordan Smith. I like that pick. Kind of back and forth, pretty good haul. I think there's some impact there. Even though there was some big reaches, in my opinion, they had some big impacts at the same time, which they had 2 first-round picks, so you would expect that. 15 to me, the Bucs. Like the Tryon pick. I think it's a good fit. Love the Jalen Darden pick and fit as well. So they had some like those holding them up. They kind of just went in there and did what they needed to do. Hainsey, I like that pick as well because that's a guy I think could be capable of starting. They don't really need him to start because they got a good offensive line. But they kind of had the problem, like, what if a guard or a tackle goes down or center? Hainsey could play all three, so that's perfect in my opinion. So they had some good picks like that. And then some picks on day 3 that maybe a little early. They kind of just went off what they needed there. 14, the Vikings, another pretty big haul there. They were starting off looking like one of the probably the best draft, out of anybody, trading back, getting Darrisaw. Love Kellen Mond for them, especially in the 3rd. Getting Wyatt Davis, getting picks like that. They had Surratt, Patrick Jones. I like Janarius Robinson pick a lot too. And they had a couple reaches, I thought, there, in the middle. They picked it back up later on day 3 to help themselves kind of not quite get them back up to where they were. It was kind of feeling like an A-plus draft, but they got themselves back up. And I ranked them number 14 here. 13 is going to be the Dolphins. Dolphins, they had a consistent draft. They didn't have any reaches. They kind of maybe outside the first round, they kind of, it wasn't really expecting them to take Holland and Eichenberg. We weren't really expecting that. But I like those players for them. I do. I wasn't a big Eichenberg guy. Putting him at right tackle kind of makes me grow. It grows on me a little bit. Hunter Long wasn't expected, but that was a pretty solid 3-4, 3rd to 4th round tight end. They grabbed him in the 3rd. Getting Dokes, later in the 7th. I think it's a sneaky pick there. They didn't really, I love Jalen Phillips. Jalen Phillips was my number 10 player in the draft, number 1 edge rusher. So I love him at 18. So that's kind of a wow pick for me, even though I kept mocking him in that range because we figured he would go in that range. So, there's some good impact, mainly because they had 2 first-round picks, 2 seconds. There's nothing crazy value here. So that's kind of what split. This is kind of where we're getting into the big boys. I thought these teams had a heck of a draft. You got to start split hairs, teams that went wow, a little more wow. Maybe without having 2 firsts or 2 seconds, that could split them up. But no reaches for me for the Dolphins. That's fantastic. They did a good job. They got some good impact there. 12 is going to be the Panthers. Another team that had a pretty big haul. Yeah, I guess you could compare them to the Vikings in a way. They got a long list of players. They got some really good players, some steals. There were some picks I thought that were a little, reaching. Hubbard's a good running back. That was pretty early for me. It was kind of in that day 3 range. It was kind of back and forth. Like, wow, they got Nixon, and they reach on this guy. It's kind of back and forth. Earlier in the draft, I kind of like what they did. I like Horn. He was my number 1 corner. The interesting thing about him, he thrives in press man. Panthers didn't really run that. It sounds like they're going to run a little more of that. That puts Jeremy Chin more of a strictly safety role, which could affect him a little bit. So there's things to love and there's things to not love there. But, they had some really good value picks. I like adding Shi Smith, Terrace Marshall and Shi Smith. I think those are pretty good picks. So, they had some wow picks, and they had some picks that were a little early in my opinion. But mainly, being in the top 12, mainly wow, mainly a really good draft. 11, the Bills. Bills, very consistent draft. Really I had Spencer Brown as a little bit of a reach, but I like it. I still like it, because this is a guy that's not ready to play now. He's got crazy upside going to the Bills where it feels like a team that doesn't need offense line now, but they may in a year, maybe 2 years from now, it feels like they're really going to need guys. There you go. I think it's perfect. So the only reach really grew on me a little bit. Yeah, so getting Russo, getting Basham, they added the pass rush, and that's fantastic. Finally getting to hopefully getting the quarterback. You can move those guys around a little bit too, but I like them off the edge, so I like that they added that. DeMar Hamlin was a steal in my opinion. They add Jack Anderson. They add pieces. It's a consistent draft. There's nothing, I guess, that crazy wow about it, but they add pieces that they need. They get solid players. No real big time reaches. The Bills did a good job. They did a pretty consistent draft. Number 10, we're getting to the top 10. I got the Browns here. The Browns kind of had the wow moments. Newsome, it's an okay draft pick. I thought he played pretty well this year. Small sample size, durability concerns. So there's a lot to love, and there's a lot because this year he played easily a first round pick, probably better than that. But it's all 5 games or so. So you're kind of back and forth with that pick alone. But overall, it's a solid pick. Jeremiah Wusu-Koromo is a steal there. So that was a fantastic pick for them. And they had picks like that. They get they get Hudson, and they get Felton. Love those picks. Schwartz, a little early for me. He can be something with that speed. He's just got to develop more. So it was kind of back and forth. The whole draft was kind of back and forth, but they got some major, big-time impact steals at the same time, and that kind of brought them in the top 10. Number 9 for me is going to be the Ravens. Another one of those consistent drafts where there's really no reach. I guess I graded Cleveland as a 4. They took him late 3. I think he's a good fit, so I'm not really counting that one. Taking the fullback, Ben Mason, a little early. So maybe a little bit there, but I think adding the 2 receivers. Ravens fans were kind of getting on me about them. Surprisingly, they thought they were going to develop some of the younger guys, but like I wanted them to do, they go out there and add 2 receivers. And Bateman, I think their best receiver probably day one. And Tyler Wallace was a pretty good pick. I like adding away there. I think Dalen Hayes is a really good fit. You actually can see him a bit early on, I think. So I liked what they did. Pretty consistent draft. No major reaches, really. They got some fits. Maybe there's nothing. There's a little bit of wow in there. You get 2 first-round picks. There's nothing like crazy value. Maybe Wallace a little bit. But good draft. Gets them in the top 10 at number 9 there. Next, we got the Chargers at 8. Yeah, the Chargers could have been number 1 here. I think what brings them down a little bit, I think Trey McKitty and Rumph were pretty early for me, and mainly Rumph. I worry about him getting off blocks, but he is a flashy player at times. Other than that, you get, Slater was an A-plus pick. Asante Samuel's an A-plus pick. I like Josh Palmer for them. And they get some other picks, around that range. I really liked what they were doing. Even the later picks, Roundtree could be a little sneaky. Overall, they had a pretty good haul. They got a fantastic draft. There's a couple reaches in there. But, yeah, they got those wow impact players there. Gets them in the top 8. Number 7 is going to be the Giants. Not too many picks. I liked what they did. I think I like what they did more than other people. The Kadarius Toney one's not – it's a little surprising. Trade back, get Toney. How much is he going to play? You use the first round. You valued him high. Use the first round pick on him, but – are you going to use it? Where are you going to use them? How are you going to use them? So, yeah, I guess you could question that. They get a first-round pick along with it. I did grade him as a first-rounder, so it's not a great pick. It's definitely not a bad pick, but you look after that, it's Izaj Jalari, A-plus pick, Aaron Robinson, A-plus pick. And they had quite a, Rodarius Williams, I like him down there, So they had Ellerson Smith's got a lot of upside. They got him where he should have went, So I like what they did. They got some value. They got some impact, consistent, no reaches for me at all. So I really liked what they did there. Number 6 is going to be the Chicago Bears. They did a great job there. I think the big part of this is Justin Fields. The Bears needed a quarterback. People doubted him. They went out and did that. They got a very good one in Justin Fields. They traded up to get him. It's something they had to do, because when is a guy like that in any draft going to be there at 11? You go up and they actually made the deal with the Giants back-to-back here. Getting Tevin Jenkins, my big board, he was in the 30s. So it's first glance, it's not really crazy value, but there was talk about him going to the Bears in the first round. He's supposed to go first round, so it ends up being pretty good value. They'll play him at left tackle, from what I'm hearing. And they don't have a pick for I think that kind of hurts them here, ranking the big boys. Well, and some of these big teams too, they got the impact, they got the steals like the Bears, and they didn't really have to trade up. So there is a difference there. But surprisingly, people were starting to doubt, the Bears, in terms of pace, his draft ability, but going up and getting a quarterback too. So I think 2 of those things they checked off there. They did well. I like Herbert for them. I think Tungo was a pretty good steal there in the 7th. So I think the Bears did a good job to get up here with the big boys here at number 6. Top 5. I'm going to go Eagles at 5. Another one, you don't really expect the Eagles to draft well, because Roseman's been struggling a little bit with that, and people haven't really been happy with him. But I guess we'll wait and see, but I thought he did a really good job. Devontae Smith, I had an elite grade on, so they get that wow pick at the top. But then they get a long list of a haul of picks, but there's some big steals in there too. They kind of sat put, got those steals. You look at Kenneth Gainwell, fantastic. I think he'd be right there giving Miles Sanders a battle there, I think. Really, a hell of a receiving back. Marlon Tuipulotu, I thought was a fantastic pick. They got picks here and there like that throughout it. So they got impact, they got value, steals, they got a haul. So I really like what the Eagles did there at 5. Some really good drafts. 4 is going to be the Broncos, similar to the Eagles. They got a pretty big haul. After the first round, the Eagles are probably beating them, because Surtain I like. It's nothing crazy value like Devontae Smith. It's just a solid fit there. Patrick Surtain of the Broncos. And the Broncos get my guy, Javonte Williams. I think a fantastic fit. My number 1 back in the class, and he's number 3 running back taken. I'm very confident about him tearing it up, being that best rookie running back here. I love that pick, and they get good value with Quinn Miners and Baron Browning. Tremendous value there. Where they set me, I'm not a big Caden Stearns guy. Maybe they switch him around, move him around a little bit, so maybe some upside. I did not like his tape at free safety, though. Very conservative free safety. That doesn't really work in the NFL. When they make up for that right away with Jamar Johnson, who's the much better free safety on tape, in my opinion, much better. But they get a steal on him, and Jonathan Cooper in the 7th he's a disruptor type pass rusher. I mean, they got some pretty damn good picks throughout the draft here. Some good values, some players I think really fit, will make big-time impact. So they're in the boat with the Eagles there, similar drafts. Top 3, I got the Jets at 3. They did a hell of a job here. Getting impact, getting Zach Wilson, Elijah Vera Tucker, Elijah Moore was one of my guys, as well as an absolute steal, maybe of the draft, the steal of the draft there. That was fantastic. And you look what else they did throughout that draft. They had Michael Carter, I thought was a 3rd-round running back, to add him in the 4th. Hamza Nazir-Ladin, I think that'd be fantastic in Salah's scheme. I'm surprised the other DBs they took ahead of him. I do like Michael Carter the 2nd for the slot for them. But Nazir-Ladin, I think, he can kind of be that safety linebacker hybrid for them. I think it's fantastic. So they got some wow picks, some wow impact. There was a couple, we sure went a little early. There was a couple like that, but they just got, for the most part, a haul, crazy value, crazy steals, crazy impact. This draft alone made the Jets a much, much better team, which they needed. They can make a little bit of noise in the tough AFC East now because of the draft. So I put them at 3. I had 2. If you watch my grades video, it's on the channel. I had 2 A+. We had Patriots. We had Lions. We got to split these up. I thought these were just clearly the only A+ drafts for me. They really separate themselves. It's tough splitting them up. But I got the Patriots at 2. I got the Detroit Lions first year. Brad Holmes, their GM, first year head coach Dan Campbell. They did a hell of a job, in my opinion. Both these teams did. Both these teams got impact steals, all of that. They checked every box. Patriots, I like Mac Jones for them. I think great fit. Falls right in their lap. Fantastic. Get Christian Barmore in the 2nd. Fantastic. Ronnie Perkins was one of my guys. You get him in the 3rd. Ramondre Stevenson was one of my guys. You get him in the 4th. Those are epic picks there. McGrone's a solid pick. But yeah, a lot of impact, man. A lot of impact, a lot of steals there. And the Lions did something similar. They just had a little bit more of that same, thing there. You got Penei Sewell in the 1st, fantastic. You go down the list of what they did. I love Lee McNeil. They had Levi Onwuzurike with him. That's a duo. Add on with the trio, Michael Brockers perhaps. See a little bit of 3 of them on the line at the same time. Derek Barnes was one of my guys as well. You get him way later than he should have went in the 4th. You get Amon-Ra St. Brown, who could have went in the 2nd. They get him in the 4th. Back-to-back picks, I think, was St. Brown, then Derek Barnes. And then there was kind of finally we can knock the Lions a little bit. Not really, but and now they don't pick really the rest of pretty much the rest of the draft. So maybe somebody else can catch them. And here they come along in the 7th, get Jamar Jefferson, who I liked as a 5th round, maybe could sneak in the 4th. He's a very those one cut and go, sees the hole, hits the hole guys. Usually they can't really break tackles. Maybe they're not physical enough. Jefferson can do that. So I like that too. They were able to move on Kerryon Johnson. Swift, Jamal Williams, and Jefferson. That's a damn good running back from there. Maybe the only flaw here is not really though, but their receiver room's not that great. Maybe they could have added a receiver a little earlier, but then they wouldn't have got those other great value picks and players and impact players that they got. And they did get Amon-Ra St. Brown. They maybe looking at my board, you prefer Devontae Smith over Penei Sewell, but what did they do with Penei Sewell? They may have created the best offensive line in football. It's ridiculous. So I love what they did. I thought splitting the Lions and the Patriots up, the Lions might have got one more steal looking at my board. And Patriots day 3, the later picks, they were solid. Solid, the later picks. Just nothing crazy, I guess. If you had to just split hairs, nitpick a little bit here. So, those were my only 2 A+. We ain't giving those out, the Jets, Broncos, Eagles, Bears, Giants, those teams were very close to A+. There's just something, within there. The Jets had, maybe a reach or 2 on my board. The Broncos, the same thing. Eagles, The same thing there. Maybe not a whole bunch of impact day. They got a good amount of impact day 3. The Bears, had to trade value away. So there's one little thing keeping those teams from an A+. Lions and the Patriots, I couldn't really find it. Those are A+ drafts, fantastic classes for a lot of these teams, because we got teams in that last column there that had B's for me. So I thought the NFL teams in general did a hell of a job. So really excited about these rookies making this impact. Really excited to see what teams start their quarterbacks, who plays. That's what I'm really looking forward to. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this. I really enjoyed making it, kind of like the power rankings we do in season, because I miss those so much. My favorite videos, maybe one of them at least. And we'll have more post-draft content. We already got a bunch on the channel. We got more to come, and we got in-season content, or preseason content, I guess, schedules, record predictions, season predictions that we do every year, some player rankings getting ready for the year. So really excited about that. Join us, smash that like button, subscribe, follow the Twitter. That's going to do it for this one. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.